Welcome everyone to the Hurting Humanity channel. This is as deliberate and as in our faces as you could possibly get. If you haven't seen these pictures that are going around or the video clip that I'll play for you momentarily of Joe Biden's White House Halloween spectacular, Fright Fest as I call it, because it is frightening indeed to watch the President of the United States of America mock cannibalism by biting a child's leg and attempting to bite a child's foot. But of course, everybody will say that this is all just being silly. The child was dressed as a turkey, so that means that if you see a child out, you should go up to it and pretend to eat it, right? Well, if you didn't think that that was deliberate, maybe this will make you think it's deliberate, because in addition to those pictures that are circulating, what people are forgetting to point out, because most people don't understand, is how Joe Biden was dressed up as Joe Biden and Jill Biden was dressed up as a panda. Does that sound like symbolism to you? Do you not understand what the panda represents? I'll explain it to you the best that I can without getting myself removed from here. But before I do, in the event that I do get removed from here, please make sure you're subscribed to my other channels now. They are linked below. Specifically, Nations Conspire will be the next channel that I am uploading on in the month of November. So if you don't want to miss any of my videos, I highly recommend you subscribe now, especially with the fake election coming. I'm probably going to start posting most of my content between this channel and Nations Conspire every single day. So please make sure you're subscribed. Take the time to pause the video and do that now. And the event, because again, a video like this can very easily get wiped off the internet, and so can the channel overnight. Because when you start talking about things like panda eyes, well, they don't want you to hear about those things. And most of the time I will only talk about that on the website, but in this video I'll go into well, the best detail that I possibly can. So just make sure you're subbed to those other channels now. So this is as deliberate as it gets, right? They did this so strategically and deliberately. It's incredible that Joe Biden wears a complete panda suit. For those of you that don't know, the symbolism behind the panda suit and why we always see the panda prominently pushed down our throats. We see celebrities dress up as pandas, just like what we always see celebrities with this infatuation with pizza, right? Or hot dogs. We see these celebrities like Lady Barfbag, for example, who deliberately put all of this goop around their eyes to make it look like black eyes or panda eyes. What this is, for anyone that doesn't know, okay? In the loosest terminology I could say without the AI getting onto what I'm talking about. When this act is performed on the child, a blackening forms around the eyes, and it causes them to have these puffy eyes that look like panda eyes, or it could look like Rocky Balboa's face after 12 rounds of fighting Apollo Creed. That's exactly what they're referencing when they're always referencing a panda. So they love to show us the panda all the time in a lot of their skits that they do out in the open. This is so strategic and deliberate. It's absolutely sickening. But if you didn't see, this is Joe Biden with children coming up to him at the White House on Halloween of all days, which anybody out there that understands Halloween and ritual sacrifice should understand what they're seeing here. And here's Joe Biden pretending to eat, and notice one of the children at the very end of the video is terrified, screaming in terror, because that child's soul can probably feel what it's standing near. Take a look. So are we supposed to look at this and laugh at it and think it's funny? I mean, you got to put yourself in the perspective of, first of all, seeing this type of behavior from any other president before is unheard of. Seeing the things that we're seeing right now going on with the charade of this, just the stuff that they're doing on each side of the aisle, the things they're saying about the civilians in this country, it's unheard of. But to see a president host an event like this and do the things like Joe Biden is seen doing in this clip, it is unbelievable. If you were walking around, this is the equivalent of, this isn't Joe Biden going to his sister or his brother's house and seeing his niece or his nephew, which still would be creepy and weird. These are complete strangers. So this is the equivalent of a trick-or-treater coming to your door, ringing the bell for candy, and then you admiring the costume and pretending to eat the child. Now, you would be very alarmed if you went to some stranger's door with these are babies here. These are, 1-year-old, 2-year-old children, and you're holding the child in your arms and it's dressed up as, let's just say, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, and Joe Biden pretends, or the neighbor pretends, to mockingly eat your child. You probably scream. You probably pull back, and you probably might even call the police and say that this person was, deliberately pretending to eat my child. It was very disturbing and creepy. I didn't give them permission to do this. But of course, since it's the president and these people are showing up, you're supposed to look at this as if it's normal, and it's not. And of course, this all goes back to Baal worship. Jeremiah chapter 19, verse 5. They have built also the high places of Baal to burn their sons with fire for burnt offerings unto Baal, which I commanded not, nor spake it, neither came it into my mind. There's many references in the Bible to human sacrifice, child sacrifice, and Baal worship. Yet, of course, in modern society today, because the church never speaks about the evil in the world, they try to just get everybody on board with the positives. People don't realize that these same people exist in our society. And in fact, we're talking about senators, all the politicians, presidents, vice presidents, all your celebrities who partake in the same exact thing. And out in the open, they show you what they partake in. In fact, this isn't the first time that Joe Biden has talked about Satanism or eating children. If you haven't seen the theme here, there's a theme. And the theme is that they're deflecting off of the fact that these are the things that they partake in. Listen.
I don't care if you think I'm Satan reincarnated. Are there people in the Republican Party who think we're sucking the blood out of kids?
I'm not sure. Are there people in the Democratic Party?
You think we're sucking the blood out of kids? You think we're sucking the blood out of kids?
And that should be enough for people to say, what am I listening to here? I'm hearing and seeing a president. I mean, we've all seen the pictures of Joe Biden, rubbing kids' shoulders, the creepy stuff. Everyone's heard creepy Joe Biden. But now we're talking at a different level here. We're talking about mock biting on children. We're talking about him at political debates, comparing himself to Satan himself, comparing himself or talking about, bringing attention to people eating children and then seeing him do that. Do you see a pattern here? If you're not seeing the pattern yet, the pattern here is cannibalism, the normalization of the things that they do. And if you don't think that they can normalize cannibalism, then you're not thinking. Because 10 years ago, I talked about how they were going to normalize all these things that are going on now with kids, telling kids that they should baptize themselves, because it's all subliminal through the mind control they put in these programs. And now you have kids who are confused about who they are, confused about their gender, because they're making them confused deliberately. That's why this is happening, and they're convincing them to baptize themselves. We even, like I talked about 10 years ago, I talked about how they were adulting children in television shows and movies deliberately. In other words, if you don't know what that means, having these shows where children, where 5-year-olds are teaching things to adults. These cooking shows where they have Junior, right, Dancing with the Stars for kids, where then suddenly adults at home are watching children in dance competitions, thinking to themselves, wow, these kids are pretty good. And then all of a sudden in their mind, they're seeing these kids as adults because they're doing adult things. This is subliminal mind control programming that they're doing. So they can very easily, as I'll show you, convince people to be cannibals. There's no doubt about it. They've already been working it in. But let me just show you a quick clip if you don't remember Joe Biden talking about his uncle and cannibals and how they ate them. I mean, there's just a theme here. There's a repetition here. We're talking about cannibalism and eating humans.
He got shot down in New Guinea, and they never found the body because there were a lot of cannibals for real in that part of New Guinea.
So, according to the Pentagon, Biden's uncle was a passenger on a plane that was forced to ditch in the Pacific Ocean for unknown reasons, both engines failing at low altitude. 3 men failed to emerge from the wreck, and Finnegan is still missing. But the U.S. government's service record does not attribute his death to hostile action or to cannibals, although there was, in fact, documented cannibalism in that region in the mid-20th century.
But the thing is, the president believes his uncle was eaten by cannibals.
Right.
Is that right?
Yeah, this is what it sounded like.
Well, so Jackie, in the history of the White House, has any other president of the United States had a relative who they would imply was eaten by cannibals?
Can you look that up?
I would have to do a a little research on that one, but I can certainly try. I had to do a surprising amount of research on this one this morning, so I'll get right back to you.
Well, let's think about world wars. Let's start with Woodrow Wilson and work our way backwards.
Yeah, well, he implied that
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you, Jackie, that his relative, the plane crashed in an area where there were cannibals.
Right? And people don't, you look at that and you could say, one thing, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. There's a pattern. This isn't normal to see a president constantly referring to cannibalism or eating children or doing these creepy things around children. And in fact, like I said, people have been programmed without realizing it that they're doing things like this to get people on board eventually, because the more they do it, the repetition, remember, they just plant seeds, and then they could put a big story out and everybody out there will be like, taken aback, ooh. But the more they hear the story, all of a sudden everybody's on board. It's no different than anything else that's been normalized in this world. At first, everybody goes, oh, no way, no. And then as it gets beaten into them, they accept it. That's just really the key to mind control, right? So the Smithsonian releasing stuff, new study, fleshes out the nutritional value of human meat when people clamored for the ultimate cure-all human flesh. I mean, these are from major media outlets. These aren't things that are from little blogs of witches and Satanists. They were talking about the New York Times, the New York Post, the Smithsonian, the Wall Street Journal, right? And most people out there, if you actually start, showing them videos like this and just explaining the pattern, it does help them wake up, because most people don't even realize. Think about what we've been taught from a young age, right? In school, how many stories were children taught about cannibalism, right? Let's just use the most basic ones, like Hansel and Gretel, right? What is the whole story about? It's about a witch who has cannibalistic intentions and intends to fatten Hansel before eventually eating him. Now, why would we be reading this to children? How about stories like the 3 Little Pigs, right? The wolf is coming to do what? He's coming to eat the pigs. Now, the pigs aren't human, but they're presented as human because they're walking around and talking like humans. I mean, there's so many of these children's quote-unquote fables that talk about this. And this is a method of mind control. It convinces people that this isn't really happening, that this is all fairy tale talk. Oh, this guy over here hurting humanity or whatever his name is this week. Oh, that guy's just living in a different reality because he's talking about these things like they're really happening. But if you actually pay attention to it, it is really happening. They're actually convincing you of the opposite, but they're revealing themselves to you right in front of your face. But you're supposed to take it as humor. Oh, it's funny that Joe Biden is trying to bite a child, right? But then when you put yourself in a real world situation, if it was your child, right, or your cousin or whoever you know who is a 2-year-old, and you're walking to someone's door holding him and someone pretends to bite him and you don't know. I mean, this is strangers supposedly that are coming up to Joe Biden. Now, we know they're not real strangers off the streets, that this is all vetted, but still, you can even see from the reaction of the one girl who's traumatized and crying. I don't really know who this guy is, and there's nothing cute about it, right? And it all goes back to the panda costume. This is the equivalent of Joe Biden coming out dressed as a slice of pizza. It's, it would be more probably over the top because more people would be like, holy crap, she's dressed as a slice of pizza, but it's the same thing. I mean, this is a very significant symbol to them. It's one that we see just as much as any other. In fact, it's probably the most censored one on the internet as far as talking about what it means and how through trauma that can actually occur to a child. So the repetition and pattern is there. And if you haven't noticed, they've been easing this through satanic rituals and cannibalism benefits into movies for a long period of time. And little by little, they are normalizing this without anybody out there realizing it. Look.
A fairy tale has a way of getting into your head.
Make your acquaintance?
I'm called Gretel, and this rough one here is my brother Hansel.
There's too much, and it isn't right.
You're scared.
There's something wrong here.
I'd hate for you to start something you can't stop.
Feast of Feasts, Sabrina, is one of our coven's holiest holidays. It's similar to mortal Thanksgiving, but
the menu is slightly different. The witches would have starved and died that winter had it not been for the sacrifices of Freya, the youngest, strongest witch.
Freya slit her own throat and offered up her body so that the coven would have sustenance through the cold months into the spring.
Wait, are we seriously talking about cannibalism?
It's not unlike the Donner Party.
The Feast of Feasts is an annual demonstration of our devotion to the Dark Lord.
Eligible because...
It is the Dark Lord's will, in any case. The 14 tributes draw lots to see who will win the honor of being queen.
What do you get as queen?
You get to be the main course.
The queen is eaten? And witches participate in this?
A ritual sacrifice, it's slightly different.
Brethren, sisters, a very unholy night to you all.
And also to you.
Each year, the Feast of Feasts commemorates the selfless sacrifice that saved our coven. Cannot fulfill her duty as Queen of the Feast.
Blasphemy! We are ravenous. We must feast.
Moreover, the Dark Lord has revealed to me.
Freya lives! Praise Satan! For you, Michael. It's all for you. Hail Satan!
But something happened to my wife. She threw up this. I didn't have formaldehyde, so I saved it in olive oil. She's acting different. I can cook that for you, sweetheart.
I'm fine. I do like the way that I feel. I have endless energy and I sleep 2 hours a night.
You eat people.
I know. It's just that I'm so much more confident.
I will survive. I know how to love.
So cannibalism continues to be something that we see, which once was like this taboo thought. Now we hear more and more stories of murders that occur, that cannibalism is involved because of all this seed planting. Nobody would think to do these things who wasn't a member of these secret societies or the occult who would practice these things, these acts, right? You wouldn't hear about, oh, the guy up the road, he was caught cooking his girlfriend. Or recently I covered the woman who killed her mother and had her mother in the stove, and pots and pans in the stove, right? They're seed planting all of this stuff and all of this behavior. And by showing you this stuff in movies like that, and showing you, Joe Biden right in front of you nibbling on a child, to them telling you the benefits of it and how, wow, new studies show that there's a lot more nutritional value in human meat than animal meat. Wow, did you know that? I mean, we're the Smithsonian, right? The caloric value of the human body is surprisingly low compared to other food options. Oh, is that right? Right? So if you understand that all this thing is, when we talk about simulated reality, when we talk about the Matrix, okay, everything they're feeding you is to manipulate you. All these stories have a reason that they're out there, not because there's great writers and great journalists. It's all mind control. Everything they practice with MK Ultra is live now. Everything they did in secret, where they were abducting people off the streets and doing mind control experiments, they're doing on us. So all of this stuff is out there for a reason. So stories about, benefits of human meat, right? Stories about how you shouldn't eat beef anymore, right? But human meat, there's benefits to that. And then all these stories where it's become, it's gone from like, it's horrifying, thinking about cannibalism, thinking about Hannibal Lecter in the 90s, right? When Silence of the Lambs came out, oh, wow, people were taken aback. Well, now they have shows like Santa Clarita Diet, where literally they're trying to get you to laugh about the notion that there's a family of cannibals. And wait, she feels great too while she's living this way, doing this way, right? That red liquid really means a lot to these people. So this is all around us. And I remember when I talked about, I was in shock. And it's very hard to surprise me in today's world. But when Joe Biden was openly, at a debate talking about Satan reincarnate, and then days later talking about out in the open at the White House, on White House grounds, talking about human sacrifice, eating children. I mean, I was floored. I couldn't believe that they're actually this out there doing it. But it shows you that the mind control works, because nothing happened. Nobody was taken aback. If anything, people who found my videos then were just coming over and saying, oh, he doesn't mean it literally. Because really, that is how people respond to this stuff now. Oh, you're taking it too far. Oh, it's not literal, right? They've trained people to be that way. And because they've done that, this thing called universal law, where these demons have to reveal themselves to us, we're seeing it all around us. Just people aren't paying attention to it because they've been trained to dismiss this, to laugh that off. Because they're consuming so much media and everything else at once, it's hard to even take one thing seriously versus another. Right? You're getting gaslit over here to be angry about this. And then, oh, by the way, Joe Biden's biting a kid's foot. And they're like, oh, that's creepy. And that's all, just that it's creepy. Not to think to yourself, what could really be going on here? Right? What is the reasoning behind the constant censorship? It's not to censor people who are pro-Donald Trump. It's to censor people who are exposing who these people really are and how they're all working together. And really, they're using spell casting on everybody. That's what they're using to convince people that this stuff doesn't really actually occur. So, well, everybody will talk about, because it's gone viral. People are talking about it, which is, a good thing. But again, they're talking about Joe Biden biting someone's foot, a child, a 1-year-old's foot, or trying to bite another child's ankle. People are creeped out, and they should be, right? But I guarantee you the majority of people aren't noticing that panda. And that's as deliberate as it gets. It's as deliberate as it gets on Halloween, of all specific days, nights, and events that occur, celebrating their holiday, really, where these are the things that actually do occur during this period. And again, they want you distracted, dressing your kid up in a costume, pretending it's about who's giving out fun-sized candy versus big. Oh, can I get M&Ms or a Milky Way or whatever the kids eat these days, right? They want you thinking about that stuff. Who's dressed as what? Ooh, she looks good in that outfit, versus what they're really doing on these specific days and how sacred they are, and how throughout, other decades, so many abductions occurred. So many kids went missing and ended up on the side of milk cartons during this period, during October, right? Late September into October. And now you don't even hear that stuff anymore. You don't hear about it anymore, but they show you who they are right in front of our faces. Just most people refuse to believe it. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families, as always.